Some massive targets for the Wisconsin Badgers basketball team. We're going to talk about those players, plus get into some basketball talk and listener questions with the great Nick Osen. Locked on Badgers. Let's go.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day. Part of Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Ryan Herrings. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of this amazing community. Today's episode brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of the finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off. And again, thank you for making this your first listen every day. We have the great Nick Osen, 247 Sports, joining us. We are talking hoops, some of the players he's been able to see recently in person, because, nobody pounds the pavement like Nick. Then we got some questions from you guys. We got a bunch to get into today. Nick, let's start here. We've talked a lot of football recruiting recently for obvious reasons, official visits, but let's shift to basketball a little bit. You've been out to see a lot of interesting prospects lately that have caught the Badgers' attention. Tell us what you've seen.
Ryan, I really appreciate it. And, man, busy times for us both, but we love doing this show together, my friend. So, I'll be honest. I was on a radio spot as well, just kind of reflecting on this weekend, right? And, man, I've fortunately been to a lot, not many better events than this June Jam, which is right here in Wisconsin, put on by the WBCA in Appleton. Phenomenal event, man. And, we could probably spend 15, 20 minutes of this whole show talking about what I saw, but some of the key players that I'd really want to note, I would say, first off, Zavier Zens. Now, that's a really intriguing name right now. If you follow him, if you follow his game, which I know you do, Ryan, he is technically blowing up and picking more offers and interest than really anybody in the state right now in terms of growth this spring, and among the best in the Midwest with some of this fast growth. So I know we'll get into him a little bit more deeply, but Zens, I would say, of course, Donovan Davis, who I will again see at camp this week, like Zens, but he is one of the best in the entire country. So he's terrific. I saw a player named Deuce McDuffie for a while that's going to be at camp. And then another name that I think, unless you're really into the prep stuff in the state of Wisconsin, might be new to a lot of people. The name might not be new, same name as obviously a big-time NBA player, but his name's Jalen Brown, Wauwatosa West star. Actually was a state champ this past year, has been a big-time passer since year one. But I think, Ryan, from what I saw, Coach Gard and the staff got to several of his games. I think he could be a name to really track and follow this summer, man. I really do.
That's a great list to start with. If you could, let's hit on Zavier Zens just for a second. Right? You mentioned starting to blow up, just picked up a Toledo offer I saw. I think the size and the skill fits really well with Wisconsin. I think the question, right, what's keeping, and it's not just Wisconsin, what's keeping some of the bigger schools, at least up to this point, from fully pulling the trigger? Do you think it's more of a ball handling, what position he's going to play, or do you think it's more of we're not sure of the athleticism quite yet?
Out of those, Ryan, I think it would probably be a little bit more the first one in terms of positional fit. I'll say for some of these schools, it's just it's not near the end or anything, but it's a little bit later potentially in the cycle. So I think teams are maybe figuring things out. But, I'll tell you this, man, I've seen him play 7 times now, 4 or 5 just this past weekend. I think he's athletic enough. I think his size is terrific. He's a knockdown shooter, but he's more than that. And I think he showed that, especially in a couple games with Gard in attendance, Iowa, Nebraska, Colorado State, who did offer. Ali Farokhmanesh is going to do a great job there, and several of these other programs. So, man, if you ask me, and I don't claim to know as much as, Greg Gard and this great staff or anybody at that level, but I do trust my evals generally, and I don't really have a doubt that he is a high major player because he showed me, Ryan, the ability to create off the dribble a little bit for himself. He play makes for sure. He can create shots on that Wisco Lutheran team for the Knueppel brothers, as we certainly know a lot about them. And, man, my favorite thing about him, and something that you do see often in this Wisconsin offense, is a point forward role. Obviously John Blackwell is not 6'7", 6'8", but you saw him as kind of that jumbo lead guard, John Tonje at times. I believe he can do that and push in transition. And those are some reasons that, look, we'll see how he performs at Wisconsin camp, of course, coming up today and tomorrow. But just in terms of what I've seen, I've got a lot of faith in him, and he comes from a really, really good, kind of genetics as well in terms of basketball.
Yeah, that's a really good breakdown. And I think the shooting size itself is a carrying skill set. When you're looking at
Mhm.
players, you're always what can be a carrying skill set. If nothing else comes along, well, you have size and you can shoot from length. The shot is
Mhm.
really pure. I like the mechanics of
Mhm.
it. Talk to me a little bit about Jalen Brown, a player that you and I both really like. You've talked a lot about him.
Yeah.
Take me under the hood a little bit more with Jalen Brown and what makes him so special.
Yeah, Ryan. So it's interesting, right? Because I remember I moved back here in October of 2023, and people were already telling me about this young player. And so what I think really stands out to me is a couple of things. His physicality. Like he is very strong and well built for a rising junior. I think he's mature. I think he's generally unselfish. Now he's going to get his, but I think he also loves to facilitate. If I'm not mistaken, I believe he set the assist record for Tosa West in a single season, either as a freshman or this past season. Like I know he can pass. I mean, he's just tough, and I think that he'd fit really well in Wisconsin. I think he'd be a good in-state win. Again, this is no slouch here in terms of rankings or anything. I mean, our team put out new rankings this week. I felt he was a four-star, and he is a four-star player, 81st in the country, 82nd. So obviously getting a ton of respect. I just want to add real quick, Ryan. I know that you were even in on this recruitment before I moved back. But Knueppel's brother, Kager Knueppel, I think more offers are going to come there. I'm not sure, which school he really is liking now. I'm sure I'll get some more this summer. But man, you talk about intriguing prospect, Ryan. He's 6'9". I'm going off memory a little bit. I want to say around 200, like 205. So certainly has to fill out, has to have a little bit more fluidity in his game. But man, he fights on defense. He did some things above the rim, and he can shoot so easily from deep. It'll be fun, man. He's got 2 years. Zens is a 26, but Knueppel, Jalen Brown, Donovan Davis, a lot of those other guys, 2 years left of high school ball.
Yeah, I love that he threw Knueppel in there, and you nailed it. He's 6'9", 200 is what he's listed at now. That's probably going to fill out in the next few years to maybe 6'10", 210, 220. And quite frankly,
Mhm.
in this era of basketball, like that's plenty if you can shoot the ball. Like you can
Oh,
space
yeah.
the floor and be a nightmare if you're 6'10" and can shoot the ball the way he potentially
Mhm.
shoot it. Dude, I had him written down my notes. I didn't know if we'd get to him, but I love that you brought him up because I'm incredibly intrigued by his potential skill set in this
Mhm.
way guard offense.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, no, without a doubt, Ryan. I mean, I think let's just give a little credit. I mean, this state right now, 5 guys in the top 125 in the country. Now you do the math, like, okay, 5 players times 50 states, like that'd be like a top 250. And Wisconsin has these guys comfortably in that top. I think it's like 4 guys in the top 81. I mean, just really, really impressive.
Let me ask you this quick, because I already know the question that's going to come up. And by the way, Wisconsin has always produced an underrated amount of talent. Like this is a
Mhm.
basketball state, boys and girls. Like there is talent that comes out of this state. Badger fans listening to this show are going to say, "Well, sure, but we don't land any of it," which isn't completely true, right? Talent has come from in-state, but there is an idea that the top level talent doesn't generally land in state. Do you see that trend potentially continuing, or do you see that criticism as potentially being valid?
I I I push back a little bit on the criticism just because people, and I won't get too in depth on this, maybe in a story or some VIP stuff, but people don't understand everything that goes into basketball recruiting. It's not as, maybe pure in terms of kind of what I thought at times when you're growing up. Like there's obviously a lot of NIL talk involved, and often there are people in players' ears and things like that that affect things. Okay, I'll say that. I will say I've gotten pretty deep into some of the circles in the state. And guard is well respected, and the Badgers are still looked at very well, whether they get some of these guys or not. Now, if there's not an effort to, I think that's a different issue, right? But it's not like the Badgers aren't recruiting these guys. They're going to pick and choose, like Donovan Davis. I'll tell you, as we sit here in mid June, that's going to be a battle. I've got the Badgers and the Cyclones up top right now. I think Iowa State maybe in a little bit further ahead right now. But Blue Bloods are going to come calling. So then it's going to be about what he's looking for. Jalen Brown, I think the Badgers have a good shot early. Knueppel, like from what I understand, Guard did a pretty nice job with that recruitment. And it was just kind of, I mean, hey, Duke came calling, and obviously Khan is projected in the top 5 this week in the draft. Like, he's done very fine for himself. But in terms of just that question, I don't think I wouldn't take a lot of that criticism. I think that the efforts are certainly going to be there, and it just kind of comes down to what these guys are looking for, right? Like, if they're just looking for the largest payday, which I'm not saying any of these young players are, that isn't always just going to come from here, because the staff very smart and they're not going to force things. If it's a mix of, hey, I want to have a good role, want to be developed, maybe play early and close to home, I like how the Badgers check off all those boxes, Ryan. I really do.
Well, especially with the offensive adjustments Guard has made, it's going to be easier to sell that system going forward, which is something I've already been told by more than one person. So, all right, we got to take a quick break here. And, man, it's always phenomenal stuff with Nick. But we're going to come back, touch on football recruiting, and then we have a bunch of questions y'all submitted. So that's coming up next on Locked On Badgers. But first, a quick break for our friends of the show. Today's episode brought to you by our incredible friends over at Monarch Money. If you ever log into your bank account and cringe a little, and you're like, gosh, where did this go? I thought I had this, and turns out I have this. Monarch Money's here for you. It's it's like a personal CFO that brings every single account you have into one spot, so you can manage all of your money, from your mortgages to your credit card payments to your investments, and you can set goals with your significant other. My wife and I use this, and it is just a great tool to visually see where your money's going, to get reports, to set goals, to see your spending, and to help get a little better with your money, because that's what we should all be doing. We should all be trying to be a little bit better with our money so that maybe we can retire a little bit earlier, or we can get that vacation with the fam that we're so after. Right now, take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com. 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. All right, let's jump back into this with the great Nick Osen. Nick, man, as always, I have to give you an opportunity to share. I think everybody knows at this point, but we always have new listeners to new shows. Where can they find what you got going on if people don't know?
Ryan, that means a lot, man. And, I really just kind of try to put the head down and do the work with some things coming up. July is going to be exciting. I've got some content really planned. You can find things at Badger 247, a part of the 247 Sports Network. I think we're in a really good place going forward. And I will say, if people can listen to this show in the next 5 to 6 days, we do have a 50% off annual VIP promo. I wouldn't push it if I didn't believe in it. We're in a good spot. Thank you, my friend.
Dude, let's talk. And by the way, I'm on 247. I can't recommend it enough, the amount of content Nick and his team over there puts out. Obviously, the great John McNamara moved over, and Payne's there. And it's just a great team. So a lot of basketball talk, Nick. Let's quickly touch on, if you have any football recruiting you want to get into. And then, as you know, because we went over it before the show, we have a bevy of great questions to get to.
Yeah, man, I got to say, people show up for my guy Herrings because it's an amazing group of questions. But in terms of football, it's going to be a dead period, but I just want to make sure people are kind of staying up on things. So when this show is coming out this week, you should still kind of be waiting for a few key names. Amari Latimer, our running back, obviously we've talked about a ton. If you follow my stuff, if you watch Ryan's stuff, if you're in the Badgers sphere, you've heard of him. I still feel good about where Wisconsin sits, just kind of looking for some of that final clarity. Jaden Petit, big-time wideout. I've heard the most about the Badgers and the Oklahoma Sooners of late, so that will be intriguing. Wisconsin's put a lot of time in there. There was some Oklahoma buzz I was catching this week, so that'll be a big one to follow. I'll say Jackson Ford from out east in Pennsylvania. I'd put Wisconsin, Ohio State, and Penn State as the top contenders. If you're listening to this show, you're probably going to hear a decision in the next 18 to 20 hours coming off of this show. And then Jamie and Theodore, man. Wisconsin and Tennessee are kind of battling it out. Louisville's trying to get back in the picture. I would say I feel good, but not amazing right now for the Badgers. I think that is just a really tight one. And it's going to be intriguing to see when that decision comes. Man, some good nuggets there, yeah.
That is a group of talent, too. All of those players are big-time dudes. All right, let's get into some of these questions. Again, I said Nick's coming on the show. When Nick comes on the show, people jump at the questions. I love this one from Side Road. % chance that both Winter and Blackwell are NBA guys.
So I think I'm going to take this, Ryan, a couple ways. I'm going to answer it as if Side Road means after this upcoming year and then overall. I think he means overall. But
I think so, too.
First off, yeah, in terms of after this season, I think There's a better chance than you'd think that you lose at least one of those guys at the NBA. Now we've talked. I personally believe that Winter's in a little bit of a better spot to leave early, just because I actually saw him tracking on some draft boards. However, Blackwell went through the process. He's somebody that when he really gets the feedback and puts the time in, he's going to act on it. So in terms of collectively percent chance, NBA guys, but not necessarily have to be drafted. Man, I will say 80%, 70 to 80%. Like, no question, it's a higher likelihood. I don't think there's a doubt with Nolan Winter. I think it's more just about, and I've spoken to people, close to him and the program. I think it's just about how high does that potential get? Is it a second round, UDFA, or hey, does he really pop and, kind of project to a late first round guy? Because he is athletic, size, shoot, pretty good motor, and obviously can defend very well. So we've talked about that. And then Blackwell, the production, man, it's really, really good. I think he's somebody that is just going to be kind of a tweener with his size. And I think you and I have talked about that. I know we've texted about it a little bit. Just like, okay, if he wants to go that 2-guard route, then 3-pointers have to be massive this year. If he wants to be kind of that jumbo combo guard, then obviously driving, facilitating are going to be huge. But I'll say, Badger fans, enjoy these guys this year, because these duos don't come around too often.
I love your take on that, because I very much agree. I think Winter is an NBA guy. There's not that many 6'11" guys like him that can move and shoot the ball. The NBA needs him. Everything. He's going to get – I think there's a very good chance this might be the last year with both of them on this roster, and I've said that a couple times. I think people are sleeping on how good Winter could be. Blackwell, to your point, I just wonder about the fit in the NBA, because he's not a point guard in the NBA, I don't think. And I don't know, he's going to be an undersized 2 then, or an undersized wing guy. So I think the heart's there. I think the ability to score is there. Yeah. He's going to have to get a little more consistent shooting in on the defensive end. So I'm going to say 65, 70%, but I think Winter is the guy that could jump quite a bit this year. So I love your take there. Sticking with basketball, we're just going in order here. This is from the Real North. Give me the underrated, under the radar guy on the basketball roster that makes a big jump this year.
I'm going to cheat and give a couple here. So this first name is not under the radar, but again, bouncing off that last question, I think from what I understand, the time he has put in and just the expectations around this young man, I think Winter's going to take a leap. So he's one that I have. And then in terms of maybe a little bit more under the radar, probably Jack Janicki. I think we've had a similar one on this great show before, Ryan. That's who I went with. And I've got to stick with him, because otherwise you're getting a lot of guys that are new to the team. So I don't kind of take that as much as a leap. If you're talking about, hey, who's just going to pop off his final season with this fit? Man, I mean, Wisconsin basketball tweeted or posted a picture, I think, or maybe a video of some things from early workouts. Andrew Rhodey looks just physically a little bit more lean and cut than I maybe expected. I love his fit in this offense.
Yeah, I love all of those. Janicki is one I've talked about, because I think he has a great feel for the game, and he's a better shooter. I'm just going to be straight up and say he's a better shooter than he showed last year. I promise you that. I promise everybody that's listening that. And if that shooting comes to where I think it can, the feel for the game is going to play up, and I think he's going to have a big leap this year. Let me give you one, and this might be cheating because he wasn't on the roster last year. I think Kins is going to outperform what people expect for a true freshman. I think he's going to play. I think he's going to be physically ready as a freshman, and I think he has all the DNA of a role player.
Dude, I mean, at this point, we're taking 4 or 5 guys, but I'll go similarly. You know how deep I got in with some of the recruitments of Kins and Will Garlock. But, man, you look at some of these pictures. Garlock looks like he's 21 years old and has been in this weight room. So I think we agree. I think both those freshmen play some roles there. But, yeah, great answers right there.
Dude, love it. Let's hit this one quick before a break, because this is a you question. I need to hear the real Nick Osen take on the best pizza spot in Madison from Jack Nelson on Twitter.
Yeah, Jack, that's my guy. We've got a couple connections, namely, my old neighbor he's very, very close with. And Jack's just an awesome fan, supporter. So I'm going to give a couple here. One, if we're talking like Madison, the heart of Madison, downtown, I know everybody says it, but I will give some love to Ian's Pizza. I think that you've got to have kind of that late night spot that you can really go to. And then if we're talking Madison, like city limits, surrounding areas, I want to give some love, Ryan, to a place I grew up going to. I've only had once or twice since moving back, and I've had it on my list to do again. I'm guessing you maybe haven't had this, but I know for a fact you love it. Anna's Pizzeria, Anna's Pizza, Sun Prairie, Wisconsin. If you guys are listening, like go. It's affordable. It's been a mom and pop shop for, geez, I'm going to age myself, 25, 30 years. You know, they had to rebuild at one point. Amazing. Amazing, Jack. Thank me later, sir.
Dude, I love it. And we are going to hit that place later. Next time I come down into your neck of the woods, that's where we need to hit.
Yes. Yes. We will pause the wings and do pizza.
Dude, I absolutely love it. All right, we're going to take a quick second here. We're going to come back last segment. Again, phenomenal guests, phenomenal questions. Biggest basketball rival. We're going to talk about that. Badgers football schedule. Is it really as hard as maybe some people are making it out to be? We have a bunch more coming up next. Locked on Badgers. But first, a quick second for our friends of the show. Over at Rugiet. And guys, listen, you've probably heard of Viagra and Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, maybe it's time for Rugiet Ready. Rugiet Ready is the next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost that blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours. You don't got time for hours when the moment's right. Like right after maybe a David Gilreath kickoff return, you got to be ready to jump into action. And that's where Rugiet's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue. It kicks in fast, on average in about 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident. You can stay in control when that moment is right. I love that it's completely online. It's delivered discreetly to your door. And if traditional options haven't worked for you, Rugiet might be the answer. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch. Head over to Rugiet.com/lockedoncollege. Use code LockedOnCollege for 15% off. That's Rugiet.com/lockedoncollege. Use promo code LockedOnCollege for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rugiet website for full safety information. Let's finish up these questions here. I love this one from Red Shed because I actually think we talk so much about Minnesota, the football rivalry.
Mm-hmm.
From Red Shed, who do you consider Wisconsin's biggest rival? Does it differ by sport? Because if I look at this for basketball, I don't care. I'll just take this one to start. I don't care about Minnesota and basketball at all. I just frankly don't give a crap. And in basketball, my biggest rivals, dude, this might be an unpopular opinion because I know so many people really do care about the Marquette-Wisconsin rivalry. I know that's a big deal to a lot of people. For me, it's Michigan State and Purdue. Those are the teams that I really get excited about, that I really want to beat, that I think are more important for Wisconsin to beat just in the landscape of the Big Ten. When I think basketball rivals, that's who I look at.
Yeah. So Ryan, I don't think it is Marquette, at least in my eyes. I love that rivalry. It's one of the best, I think, kind of from an outer lens. But when you're in the circles and you around the fans and talking on the boards, like I agree with you, man. I'm going to go football quickly. I think it is Minnesota, or frankly, I think that there's a little rivalry budding right now with Illinois, if it hasn't been already. I think that's going to be intriguing to follow. And then in hoops, man, I had Purdue, of course, two elite programs. Matt Painter, I really, really respect, obviously as a coach, but also as a man. Like, I think he's a really good person that does things the right way. Izzo and Sparty, I get, but the two I had, Purdue, and then I guess it's going to be a little different with a new coach, but man, I had Iowa.
Yeah,
because even though they're kind of different styles and Wisconsin's been kind of much better, like there were some years with the talent that they had. I remember a lot of good battles. And now you'd certainly think that McCollum's a step up from Fran. And I think Fran got a bad rap at times, but I think it's going to be Boilermakers and Hawkins.
Yeah, that's a really good one too. Let's move on to the next one here from Chris H. Is the Badgers' schedule really as tough as most make it out to be? A lot of new quarterbacks at almost every new opponent. What do you think here?
Good question. Chris, I think Chris is a great follower as well. Man, I mean, you're right, but then you kind of think of how those areas really match up. Like I think of a spot like Bama that reportedly have a lot of kind of expectations, of course, around the program, but around that quarterback. Ohio State, like Ryan, if you win that starting spot, like, I mean, you're throwing to like 3 NFL players. So you should still be pretty good. Now, here's where I will listen a little bit with spots like Iowa. Again, we're just talking hoops. Like what type of jump does Gronowski make jumping up to the Big Ten? Okay. Who was another one I was thinking? Michigan, obviously huge question mark. I think long term, they probably got a first round pick there. But as a 17 and a half, 18-year-old kid, like that's a big question mark. There are a couple other ones as well. I am a Dante Moore guy. Like I've always liked him in his recruiting, but Oregon will take a step back, right? So great question. I will say maybe not to the level people are saying. Like I've said consistently, I think this is a bowl team, but I also wouldn't really overlook many of these teams because the talent around them. I think of a Michigan, I think of an Ohio State, think of a Bama. Like the talent around those quarterback positions still very good.
Yeah, and to Chris's point, Illinois, obviously Altmaier's coming back as well, so they do one of those kind of teams you almost have to beat this year if you're going to lose your four toughest. They're going to have their quarterback back. I will just at a big picture though say, don't get too caught up in what happened last year. Like things change a lot in college football. Indiana was a playoff team last year. That doesn't mean they're going to be a great team this year. Wisconsin could take a step up, and 3 or 4 of these teams could take a step back. And at a broader picture, I think that's kind of what Chris is talking to, and I agree with that point.
Yeah.
Let's go here. I love this. So we got the question of project the 2 deep for the 26-27 season. We're not going to be able to do that in a show. So we picked out a position that we thought was really interesting. Nick, let's go inside linebacker, which is a position that is stacked with talent, young talent. There's bodies in there. How do you look at the 2 deep for inside linebacker in the next season, 26-27 season?
Dude, such a good question. And we picked this spot because I think it is just overflowing with talent, frankly. So I believe, I'm just going to go with what I say. I think the top 2 in 2026 to 27 are going to be Tackett Curtis and then either Mason Posa or Coop Catalano. I say that because I think Allegro, with a big year this fall, could be an NFL guy. Not saying he's going to leave, but for the sake of discussion, that's what I'll say. And then so you look at that 2 deep, okay, you throw Posa or Coop in that top group, the other guy then backing up. And then, man, I mean, I like Turner. I like Janzi. I think he works really, really hard, but I wouldn't be shocked in the slightest if a younger guy like Landon Gauthier or Aiden Reeder jumps up there because I'm high on Reeder. He might be like for sure one of the best players in this class. I think he was a great ad, and I think he'll be ready early.
Dude, I love that you brought up Reeder. That's who I was going to say. Again, you and me like Legos. We stick together. I love that dude. I love his frame. I love his versatility. I think he is a tremendous fit for the Badgers. I'm right there with you, though. I think slide and Tackett Curtis. I expect a bounce back season this year. Talking to some people, it sounds like he is really back to that version that people expected to jump right away as a freshman at USC. And then I think it's going to be Coop. I think it's going to be Catalano. Like, I love Mason Posa. Like, we've talked so much about Posa, but man, Cooper Catalano has made gains already. He looked great in the spring game. He's looked really solid. He's a tackling machine. I think it's going to be him and Tackett. And then they're going to find a way to use Posa, right? So that's a loaded spot. I think it's a great question. Let me hit you this one from Storm Shadow. Best place to eat, not super close to the stadium on game day.
Yeah. So this one isn't quite as, kind of mom and pop type of thing. It's very well known, but I wouldn't call it super, super close to Camp Randall. It's my favorite place and one of my favorite places on earth, Ryan, and that's the Memorial Union Terrace, man. It's not necessarily like this gourmet food, but it's good Wisconsin food. They flip their menu at times. They got a Broughton burger stand outside. They have a new pizza place that came in like early 2024. I love that spot. You go sit outside, you catch an hour or two of rays, some nice sunlight, grab a pitcher, and then head over to the camp. And I'll also say, real quick, just we'll say if you're having a little fun later in the day, Chiba Hut. You could definitely, get a little saucy and have some good subs.
Dude, I absolutely love it. I've been there. They have tremendous food. Last one here, man. And again, I've kept you for as long as I can keep you. We could always talk for hours, but we both are busy. I did this the other day, and I was just curious what your quick take on it is. Name 3 football players that come to your mind for you that are must-see TV next year. Not the best players, but the 3 players that people need to tune in to watch would be most likely to be on SportsCenter top 10. Who are your 3 guys on this roster?
Okay, I was going to say all Badgers, absolutely. So I've been kind of beating this drum a little bit. I'm going to keep it going. Dylan Jones. Okay. I think Jones, Dupree. I mean, I think the world of this backfield, but like Jones, I had some plays in the spring. So I'll go Dylan. I think you've got to stick with somebody we both really like, V8, Vinny Anthony. I'm going to go with him. And then, and this might be a little under the radar. Maybe it's because I'm just so confident in his new position coach, Jack Cooper. I just think this young man approaches everything the right way in terms of football, professionalism off the field. Give me Austin Brown.
Dude, love it.
I'm really intrigued by what he can do, man. I really am.
I love it. Nick, as always, dude, appreciate you. If you're listening to this show, go check out his work on 247. I say this without hyperbole. Nick he doesn't just know his stuff. He's also a great human being. So when, I'm a big fan of supporting good people who do good work. So if you want to do that as well, Nick is about the best you could support doing this kind of stuff. So go check out his work, man. I always appreciate him coming on, giving us some time, as well as all of you. Thank you for being part of this community on Wisconsin, and we will definitely talk to you later.